Hi guys, it's Christy. It's week number 2 in April where we're talking about humility. It's April 9th and I think we're on a green team week. As we talk about humility this month, which is putting others first by giving up what you think you deserve. Today we're going to get into the story from Matthew 26 verses 36 through 56, where Jesus is in the garden praying. This is after the triumphal entry. He's already done the Passover meal with the disciples in the upper room, and he has retreated to the garden. And as he's there in the garden, we're going to take a look at how Jesus showed unbelievable understanding of how important it was to put the will of the Father ahead of his own. If you remember, as he's praying, he goes to God at least 3 times and says, if it is your will, I'll do this. But if there's any other way, God, let's do something else. And Jesus knew why he came to earth. And while he was praying, he asked for God to make another way. Ultimately, Jesus knew that he had to let go of what he wanted for the sake of saving the world from sin. At some point in all of our lives, we'll be faced with a decision to give up something we want for what someone else wants. And ultimately, we will all have to face daily how we will yield to God's design for our lives. For Jesus, that was a matter of life and death. While that may not be the case for us, and hopefully it's not, showing humility in these situations is still very important. That last time that you get up with a kid because they're making noise in the night, are you going to humble yourself and get up and do what they need, or are you just going to cover your head with the covers and hide for a little while, which, if we're all honest, we've done for a little bit. We pray that kids will realize that showing humility is often more important than getting their way. Really, God is more important than what I need and what I want. How many times have you heard that? But when I take a few minutes to let that really sink in, I get in the way of whatever is going on a lot of the time. I step in and I take control instead of leaving it up to God. And in that situation, it was all about me. Do we have enough humility, just like Jesus had, that even in the really tough stuff, that we say, God, I don't like it, but your will is more important than mine. So this week, with 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders, you'll continue by playing your game of slapjack. If you don't remember how to play slapjack, you're going to deal all of your cards. Each kid is going to get the same amount of cards, and then they're going to take their cards and play them face down. Each kid gets a turn, and this really is a whole lot more fun if you go really fast. Like, keep laying cards really fast. But as soon as somebody lays a jack, the kids should slap that jack, and they want to be on the bottom. And what we're teaching them is that being on the bottom helps you win instead of being on the top, where we usually think that you are when you're a winner. Then you'll transition to large group. And during large group this week, we're going to prepare the kids for Easter. And I would like for each kid to go home with a special thing so they can invite others to come be a part of an Easter celebration, so they can spend time helping somebody else engage in the Easter story in a different way. So what I'm going to have for them during their large group time is a paper bag for each kid and a box of colors. And I'd like for each kid to color their bag and decorate it with somebody else in mind. And so if you want to help your kids around the table, think about that somebody else that they want to be able to give that bag to. When they're leaving All-Star Kids this Sunday, we would like for them to take a couple of stuffed eggs and a card for our family Easter celebration with also all of our Easter information, and invite someone to come to their church to come do all of the fun things that they get to do. So the kids will get to do it too. All of our kids get to do this, but this is a way for them to go invite somebody else to come be a part of a family celebration. We're showing humility by giving somebody else something that we might really want. And your small group activity this week is an activity called Fair and Unfair. And you'll have a piece of paper that looks like this that has fair and unfair situations on it. And I think you can play this game out a few different ways. You could read off the fair and the unfair situations. You'll have one of these per small group. You can read them off and designate an area in the room or at your table or however you want to do that, where if they think it's a fair situation, they go there, or if they think it's an unfair situation, they go there. Or you could have them do a certain movement if it's fair or unfair. I know some of you guys have been really creative with that in the month of March, and so we get to continue that a little bit more this month. I think it could even be fun to have the kids act out some of these situations. So as you're talking about it, ask them to act it out, or either give them one, like whisper it in their ear, and have them act it out like charades, and everybody else has to guess what they're doing, and then also figure out if it's a fair or unfair situation. You know your small group better than anybody, so you do what works best for you in that situation. I just know we've done this real recently, and so I think it's important though. I really think that it's important for us to continue to use these fair and unfair statements, because kids really say that a lot. In fact, it's happened so many times in our house, we've taken that out of everybody's vocabulary. Nobody's allowed to ever say fair again in our house. They have to say flare, or I really wanted them to say banana because it sounds really silly, because there is no fair situation. And so I think as we talk about this with the kids, we're helping them understand that sometimes what we think is right is not always right, or what we think needs to happen is not always the best thing that could happen. And a lot of times we have to give that up so that the better thing can happen. And so ultimately, at the end of the day, you'll get there with the kids. Your memory verse activity, we started this last week. We made little soccer goals. They're supposed to look like soccer goals. They're out of pipe cleaners and straws. If you need an example on how to build this, I'm hoping that these will last all month and that we won't have to rebuild them every week. But if you need an example of how to build this, check out the video from last week on April 2nd, and I went through details on how to build your soccer goal. You'll tape your soccer goal down, and then the kids will find their eggs. These eggs are all marked number 1, and they happen to be the same color. That likely is not going to be the case in each small group. We just had a lot of different colored eggs. And so all of the number 1s will go to one team, and what they'll do is lay their soccer balls out, and they're supposed to push the soccer ball down the table, down the floor, wherever you want to do this, and make it into their goal, but they're not supposed to use their hands. So if you want to try to use feet, I'd like for them not to destroy the eggs, but it'll go as it goes. Or they can use their nose, or you can have them blow, or any creative way that you could have them do that. Once they make all of their eggs into the soccer goal, they open, and there's a piece of paper in each egg. They'll take the paper out, and it has a word from the memory verse, and they're supposed to put the memory verse in order and then be able to say it. And so the first team that makes all their eggs into the goal and says their memory verse, they're the winners. And then the last activity today for you guys is your prayer activity. And in this prayer activity, they encourage you to come up with a list of things that kids really want to happen. So maybe they want to really make 2 soccer goals at their next soccer game, or they really want to hit a home run in baseball, or they're working really hard on their spelling words and they'd like to make 100 this time. So try to get each kid to name some of the things that they would really like to happen, and then pray with them for those things to happen. And ultimately ask for God to show them what He has for them. Maybe that's not three goals, maybe that's 1 goal this time. And we're going to be okay with it because God had that in mind for us. Pass out your God time cards as the kids are leaving. And remember today that you want to learn somebody else's name. Learn one kid's name so that the next time you see him, you can call him by name. I hope you're enjoying these. I hope this is helping you. I look forward to hearing your feedback. We'll talk to you soon. Have a good week.